Welcome back to another episode of the DailyDos Wood podcast. We got a special guest for you guys today, Niko, Lalos. Niko, what's going on, man?
Nothing much, man. How you doing?
Good, man. I know my Giants fans are excited about this one. This season, your play, personally outstanding when you stepped into the role. Like I said, it didn't end how you guys wanted. That game against the Redskins and the Eagles playing out how it did. What was the vibe there when you guys were watching that and inside the locker room?
It was definitely tough. I mean, to come that close and to kind of put it on the shoulders of another team, we kind of had to learn that lesson the hard way. I think going into next year, though, the vibes are good. Everyone's looking up. Everything's looking forward. It's kind of like putting that in the rearview mirror, but we learned from it and we're moving on.
Definitely a lot of hype around the team. The building blocks are all coming together. The pieces look to be, filling up, and it looks like this could be a good year for the New York Giants. And rewinding time a little bit, grew up in Ohio, went to the same high school as LeBron James, right?
Correct. Yep.
And you had that big play against the Bengals, your first NFL game, and LeBron gave you some love. What's been that, relationship like with LeBron?
It's been good. I mean, in high school, I played for the basketball team and the football team, and he'd always come around back when he played for Cleveland. And he was very supportive of everybody, the school as a whole. But it was just kind of cool just to see that shout out. I didn't really know until after the game, until I think it was Jabril came up to me and showed me the tweet on his phone after the game, and then I thought it was a prank at first, but it's pretty cool. I mean, it's kind of cool to see someone of that stature still go back and like support his alma mater. So it was really nice to see.
It's your first game in, you get called up a couple days before, right? Not really, knowing that you're going to go into it being a starter playing. What was going through your head that day?
I mean, there was a lot going through my head. I think I was tried to just keep it simple. I had a lot of faith in myself and confidence, and I was really excited. Part of me didn't know if this was going to be my actual opportunity or not because I didn't really get official word until the day before. But I knew I was ready. I was happy. My coaches got me prepared, so I felt very confident in myself and my abilities. And then I just kind of waited for the right opportunity, and me being the type of player I am, the hustle definitely paid off, which was kind of cool to reap the fruits of my labor. So can't complain there.
Definitely. Now, looking back at your college ball days, I was reading up that you passed up offers from Notre Dame and Ohio State and eventually ended up at Dartmouth after leaving St. Vincent St. Mary's. Why did you ultimately make that decision to go to you know, not one of those big football teams and chose a school like Dartmouth?
When I was going through like my whole college recruiting process, I had a few high school teammates and older family friends that were already at those respective schools. And when I was going on my trips, they kind of alluded to the fact that you got to go where you're wanted, um, regardless of how big or small the school is. And that's kind of what stuck with me. And I kind of always wanted to go to a bigger school, but my mom was super adamant that I go check out the Ivy League schools because she's a high school teacher. And when I went there, I met Coach Brooks, and Coach Brooks ended up being my D line coach. And he told me that if I'm good enough, they'll find me. And that kind of really resonated with me. And I ended up going back for another visit to Dartmouth and for my official, and then I ended up committing just off just talking to my mom and just kind of going off in faith of if I am good enough, they'll find me, and they definitely want me, so I'm going where I'm wanted. And here I am 4 years later, and it's definitely ended up working out for me, and I'm happy with my decision. Looking back, I obviously would love to go to Ohio State or Notre Dame or somewhere big, but I wouldn't trade it for the end result for where I am now because at the end of the day, this is my end goal, and I'm happy
Absolutely.
how it worked out.
Yeah, everything happens for a reason. You couldn't have drawn it up any better. In your Dartmouth days, when did it click in your head that you really saw it all coming together that the NFL would be a future potential career?
Um, for me, it was around my junior season. I think going into my junior season, we used to. wear these like tracking devices that kind of track how fast you run and stuff. And I got called into the coach's office because they thought I was messing around and like throwing it around because I was like running like 20 miles an hour at my size of like 265s. And my coach was like, yo, like, you remember you said you wanted to play in the NFL? Like, that's NFL speed right there. Like, you keep working hard, you definitely can reach it. So that's when it started to kind of come into focus and create the light at the end of the tunnel for me. Kind of ever since then, I started to make the decisions I needed to reach that goal.
You weren't invited to the combine, were you?
No, no, I was unfortunately not invited to the combine. My coaches and I were talking about that from Dartmouth. We were really hoping to see because I don't think anyone really understood my capabilities at that time. Just from being from a small school, you don't get as much exposure.
Did that put a chip on your shoulder to work a little harder and want it a little more, or were you already in that mindset?
Um, yeah, I mean, I've naturally have that mindset, but it definitely added fuel to the fire. Having a chip on my shoulder, I think, is something I've naturally had just from growing up, always trying to strive to be better.
Yeah. A bizarre rookie season, would you say, with COVID and everything going on? Is it what you expected going into it? Is it not? Like, what's it been like with the whole COVID protocol?
I mean, I always told people like I guess it was good for me in the sense that it was my rookie year, so I really wouldn't know what a regular NFL season would be like. So I don't know any different, so I can't really like complain. But I just remember hearing stories from like the vets that'd be like, "Wow, man, like it's so different. Like we used to do it like this, now we got to do it like this," and like everything kind of like structurally was tweaked a little bit because of the pandemic. But I mean, I just kind of went with the flow because like I said, I didn't really know any different. I didn't really have any like expectations to go off of. So I was just enjoying every moment of it because I know at any second it could be ripped away. So
Right. It's a cutthroat industry. You talk about the veterans. Are there any veterans in particular that, really reached out and helped you in making that transition easy from college to the NFL?
absolutely. The D line room was super helpful for me. I mean, I remember like me and Dalvin Tomlinson. He became super helpful to me. Leonard Williams, Austin Johnson. There's plenty of guys, even like guys that weren't in my room, like Blake Martinez, Colt McCoy, guys that even didn't even play on the defensive side of the ball. There's tons of guys we had in that locker room. Logan Ryan was another one. Just kind of let me pick their brain and just learn like the different mentalities and like the culture and the mindsets to have like going into this thing and just playing the game of professional football. So I mean, there's a lot of great guys in that locker room. So I was very thankful to cross paths with them, and definitely helped me be who I am today.
Sure. You brought up Blake Martinez. I'm sure you've seen his home gym. I think the whole team could practice in there. Have you gotten a chance to get out there and check that place out?
No, I actually haven't. I have not even seen his home gym to be honest. I didn't even know he had a home gym, but it makes sense. I imagine it's probably state of the art. So I mean, I'm definitely gonna have to after this text him and ask him about it because I'd love to see pictures of that.
He's got like a full size football turf field, a full weight room. It's insane. It looks like probably one of your facilities at
And it
MetLife
and it
there.
and it's all his.
Yeah.
That's wild. That's crazy.
Playing linebacker now, right, for the Giants, but you played defensive end in college. I'm sure that was a coach's call to transition you from defensive end to linebacker?
Yeah. I think just schematically for our defense. I mean, in college we played more of like a 4-2-5 or like a 3-3-5, where I was more of like a defensive end. But here we play a 3-4. So just schematically, the only real difference is putting your hand down or standing up, and just a little bit of like your pass rush versus pass drop responsibilities. I think are different. It definitely wasn't the biggest learning curve for me, just because in high school I was used to playing without my hand down. I didn't actually play with my hand down until I got to college. So I think it really just elevated my game and added a new facet. And to my versatility.
Was the playbook a lot coming in from college to the NFL, learning everything, learning the plays in a short amount of time, especially with COVID going on, not being able to do as much in-person interacting one-on-one with the coaches?
Um, not that much. I think I have to credit that to just the coaches themselves. I think like Pat Graham, our D coordinator, super smart guy, was able to really like dumb things down for all of us and definitely made the adjustment period like and learning the playbook a lot easier. But for me, I don't think I struggled too much. It definitely was a lot at times where you're kind of just swimming in it, trying to keep your head above water. But I think the coaches and the staff do a great job of helping all the rookies adjust.
I guess that was kind of a stupid question too, asking an Ivy League guy that who obviously has the brains. But you brought up Coach Graham. You guys have that Ivy League connection, right? I was reading up a little bit that there's, a special connection there, and you guys really worked well, and he's helped you a lot in your first year with the Giants. Talk a little bit about, what it means to have Coach Graham by your side and helping you, come into year 2 now.
It was great. I mean, it was definitely kind of cool having that Ivy League, I guess, commonality. But when I got to sit down with him, like past that, I didn't really know much about him. He would always joke that he never really played when he was at Yale. That's what like he would always joke about. But like, and I didn't really know how to take it. And then he'd break film down, and I'm like, wow, this dude's a genius. Like this dude has a PhD in football. Like
Yeah.
he knows what he's talking about. He knows what he's doing. And then he started to talk about like details that I never even like could think of, like, or I've never paid attention to before. And then it really started to slow the game down, which was nice for me because I think it definitely helped me get better as a player. Um, but yeah, having someone around like that I was able to just kind of connect with right out the gate definitely helped me and set me up for later down the road.
Yeah. The Giants haven't had the strongest coaching staff in the past, and now I feel like it's stronger than ever with Coach Graham and Coach Joe Judge. And I was looking back, I saw one of your Instagram pictures. You guys were doing the mud drill. You were in there in the mud, getting down and dirty. And I saw Coach Judge was in there. Do you remember that day? Like, what was going through your head that day when Coach Judge is getting down there and getting the guys fired up?
Yeah, I remember that day pretty vividly. It was very funny. They made all the rookies line up in a line, and then they just get these hoses out and they start like hosing down the grass, and we're all looking at each other like, what's going on? And then um, Coach Judge comes out. He's like, all right, you got to like dive on this ball, and if you don't get it, you got to keep going until you get it like without hesitation. And most of the guys were able to do it really easily, and then all the rookies got through it so fast that everyone started yelling at Coach Judge. And I happened to be standing right next to him, and he looks at me, goes, "Here, hold this," and he like just without hesitation turns his cap around and gets down and gets dirty and just dives head first. So it was really cool to see like someone who's like not above anything like that, and he definitely like cares about his players like that. So it was really cool.
It wasn't your first time playing in New York here. You played at Yankee Stadium too. What was it like playing at a baseball stadium out of all places?
I mean, it was sweet. People always joked about like, are you nervous to play in front of the crowd? And I'm like, there's not going to be a crowd because like that's what I'm used to at like Dartmouth. Because like a lot of the Ivy League attendances are pretty small, but like to be out at a baseball field and have like a decent sized crowd was like electrifying, I guess, to say the least. It was so fun. I mean, it definitely added a level of, I guess, I don't know, like coolness, for lack of a better word, to the whole game because it's not like you get to really play at venues or anything of like that nature a lot when I was in college. So it was definitely an awesome feeling. And then to win and then go back into the Yankees like actual locker room was sweet. So I mean, it was definitely the cherry on top to everything.
Did you notice a difference in the texture of the field?
Not really. They did it seemed to me like that they did a pretty good job of like covering up the actual like sands, or like dirt for the infield. It wasn't like super slippery. I thought it was going to be pretty slippery, but it ended up being like really fine. Really nice grass or turf, but yeah, it was definitely, I didn't notice too much, but it was kind of cool to like when you take a step back and look, you're like, well, I'm standing in left field, or like I'm at shortstop right now. Like in between snaps. So it was definitely cool to take in.
Yeah. I also picked up on your cleat game. Fire Concord cleats you were rocking for
Oh,
that Cincinnati game. I know
yeah.
it looks like you're a man of fashion. How is it playing in those Concord cleats?
I think the a lot of the D linemen actually turned me on to those. I had never worn Jordan cleats before, and they're like, "Nah, dude, you gotta try them. Like they're the like comfiest cleats you'll ever have." And so I was like, "All right, whatever." Like, I mean, I played basketball. I'm used to like basketball shoes. Like, I'll try them out. I feel like they're gonna be kind of clunky, but they weren't at all. Like, it was definitely like one of the most comfortable shoes I've been in. So I loved them a lot. Just it kind of sucked because I guess they're kind of starting to get pretty strict on letting guys wear Jordan cleats in the league. I guess you got to have like a sponsorship now, which is kind of tough. But they're pretty sweet. I like to think I have style. I try, but I definitely take some tips from the vets on style and cleats and stuff like that. But thanks for noticing. I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Now you're not a visor guy, are you?
No, I try not to wear too many hats. I don't like hats. I don't know. It just like makes me feel weird having something on my head. But uh, sometimes I'll wear a visor. Growing up, when I caddied, I always had to wear a visor, so that was really the only time.
Now the NFL celebrations, they've really laxed the rules on that, and you see a lot of defensive guys after run to the camera and all get together. And sometimes that could get old where, everyone groups up and they just pose. But you brought out the Akron powder celebration, which I thought was pretty cool. Did you know that the whole time? You're like, I gotta pull this off if I make a big play.
Well, so they were like before I played in the Bengals game, all my friends from home were like, "Oh, like what are you gonna do if like you get a celly?" And I was like, "Oh, I didn't really think of it." Like, they're like, "Oh, maybe you should do like the chalk or something." And I was like, "Oh, like I guess maybe like we'll see." And then I got the interception, and the first thing that came to my head was just to jump up and down. And everyone was like patting me on the back and stuff. And then I kind of jogged to the sideline and they're like, "No, what are you doing? Like, this is the NFL. You got to run down to the end zone in front of the camera." And I was like, "Oh, my bad. I'm new here." And,
Yeah.
and we ran down there, but I was just like, there's so many like thoughts going through my head at the time that I totally forgot. So I was like, all right, like if something happens in the Seattle game, I'll do it. Like I gotta pay homage. He gave me a shout out on Twitter, so I was like, I gotta pay homage to him. So I mean, I made sure I remembered that time, but it was definitely cool, and I think a lot of people appreciate that they lax the celebration rules. I think it kind of adds a more fun aspect to the game overall.
Oh yeah, and you didn't do, you switched it up. You didn't do anything generic. Like I don't think many people have pulled out the LeBron James celebration like that before.
Yeah, I think if anyone like this is just my opinion, but I think if other people did it and you like weren't an alum or didn't play for Coach Drew, I don't think you're allowed to do it. Or I guess if you are like a Cleveland, I grew up a Cleveland fan, and I watched him doing that. Being like the hometown hero. But other than that, I feel like not a lot of people are gonna stick their neck out to do it. I mean, but it's definitely kind of trademarked in a way. Like as soon as someone does it, you know who started it.
Yeah, the unwritten rule.
Yeah,
I'm assuming you grew up a Browns fan then?
yeah. I grew up a Browns fan when I was younger. Yeah,
Have you played against them? Where
yeah. I actually played against them this past year.
Wow.
Yeah, it was definitely a surreal experience. Just kind of lining up and seeing like the actual Cleveland Browns across from me on line of scrimmage, but like at the same time, it kind of brought out like that chip on my shoulder. Like, all right, well here we are. Like, what are you gonna do about it? Like, it's cool and all, but like now it's time to play. Like the ball's about to get snapped. So it definitely added. I guess there's no love lost, but it added a different, I guess, spin on the whole dream of playing in the NFL. Like, kind of like idols become your rivals. So
Right.
it was cool though.
Is there any one particular player that you look at that you watched growing up that you came face to face with on the field that you're like, wow, this is real life. This is happening.
The coolest one possibly would have been Joe Thomas, but he retired a few years ago. He was like probably one of the biggest Brown staples for like my generation of for players that were on the team. I'm trying to think. Um, I think more recently, all my friends were like, "Oh, like what was it like trying to tackle Nick Chubb?" For him being known for one of like the better backs in the NFL was really cool. So I think one time I got in on a tackle towards the goal line, and I just kind of got up and was like, "Oh my god, I just tackled Nick Chubb." Like, but he was cool because like he doesn't really say much, so like there wasn't any real like back and forth or anything.
I've had some guys on here say that when they see Saquon's legs in person, they're just thrown off at the size of his thighs and how he moves. Is that something that you kind of took away too when you saw him first
Yeah,
run?
yeah, no, absolutely. I just remember like the first few weeks of practice, he'd obviously break off a run in practice, and then we'd be watching film, and one of our coaches was like, "Yeah, he's not even like trying right there. He's holding back. Like he is 3 more levels he can turn it up to." So I'm like, and I'm already like, "Oh my gosh, like, geez."
Going into your second year after a strong finish, like I said, from your rookie year, what are your expectations? What is the vibe around you personally about going into this season?
Me personally, I mean, it's cool. It's great how last season ended. It definitely was exciting, but I understand like the nature of the league. It's a production league, so it's like kind of like the same process all over again. You gotta show up and put out to stick around, and if you're not, it's next man up. So just kind of getting back to the grindstone and getting to keep my head down and getting ready for year two. I think is just my expectations going into it. I just think only thing different is there's not that like question mark, like what do I expect, like what's this like. I've already it's not my first rodeo, so I've already been around the block once, so it's just kind of like making sure um, I'm keeping up on my end to do what I have to do to go forward.
Absolutely. Now, what's it like going from Ohio to New York, New Jersey? Have you enjoyed living in the New York, New Jersey area? It's a little hectic, right?
Yeah, it's definitely a little hectic. I made the mistake of thinking it wasn't going to be that hectic and decided one off day to just drive downtown New York City, just park on the street, and but I learned that one the hard way. But it was fun. I think a lot of people were actually impressed that I was like, I guess, ignorant enough to just do that
Yeah,
and not even think twice. But I love the city. I think it's gorgeous. It's definitely cool. I totally understand why people think it's one of the coolest cities in the world. It was very jaw dropping at first, just to see all the buildings and just kind of get used to the people and everything. But it'll be really cool once to see how it kind of starts to boom again more post COVID.
Yeah, definitely not in full swing right now, but it's starting to come back slowly, day by day. It's starting to get back, and I think one day it'll be back to that full-blown, hectic, crazy New York City that everyone loves. Are you heading back soon to New York?
Yeah, I think the plan is just to wait to see what the official schedule is released by the league, and then kind of go from there. But I think a lot of us, myself included, are just itching to get back. So we're just kind of waiting, counting down the days to see what happens.
Absolutely. One of my last questions here before we wrap up. This has been great. Have you rang someone's bell or gotten your bell rung? Are there any specific plays that you could recall that, really stick out there? Like, shit, that one I really laid the hammer, or that one I really took it.
Not that I know of. I haven't been in any like kill shots. There was one block on. I was kind of like a lead blocker on a kickoff return, and I thought I laid him out, but I ended up stepping on his foot, I think, and he fell over because I was standing on his foot, so it didn't really count. Because when I went back and watched it on film, I was like, all my friends were like, "Man, you laid him out," and then I watched on film and I was like, "Wait, that looks funny," and I looked down and like me and our feet are like entangled, so it kind of like was anticlimactic. But I've never really had any bell ringing experiences on my own. Um, I think I try to keep my head out of it, just try and play smart and keep my head up on a swivel because things do happen fast, and I don't want to be the next guy to be 10 toes up.
Sure, that's for sure. Well, we're looking forward to watching you play this season.
Appreciate it. Yeah, thanks again for having me. I enjoyed
Together
this.
cause I wanna have worth. Working hella hard till they put me in the dirt. Gonna go far, man, listen to my words. Gonna be a star, man, life's like a blur. When you're working this hard, yeah, you get what you deserve.